Joining us now for more on this, Oklahoma Republican Senator James Lankford. He's a member of the Homeland and Governmental Affairs Committee, the Finance Committee as well, and you've made a number of trips to the border.
I have.
You've described it as an epidemic. It's about to get worse, is it not, with this Title 42 relaxation?
It is. Title 42 was always intended to be temporary, but when the Biden administration came in, they've had a year to be able to establish what's next. And in that year, they've just basically worked on a plan to move people into the interior faster. They're talking about how do I pick people up here at the border and move them into the interior so there's not chaos at the border. Instead of working on a plan of how to be able to stop it and turn it around, they're talking about how to be able to move it. And strange as it is, they're saying that the pandemic's over at the border, but members of the military are still being forced into retirement if they don't get the COVID shot. We still are wearing masks on planes, and the administration is still requiring that. So they're picking and choosing where the pandemic's over.
Why do they not think that this is a crisis? If they thought it was a crisis, they would stop it, would they not?
They should stop it and can stop it. They have the capability. Just the most basic of things. They need to have whoever gets in first, the last person in is the first person up for a hearing, and send the message to people. If you cross our border illegally, yes, we're going to put you in a trial, and then we're going to do it right now. Right now, when you cross the border, you're given a piece of paper. You're asked, where would you like to go in the country for your hearing? And then they're given a piece of paper to go to a court in that spot 6 years in the future. 6 years they're allowed to stay in the country. If you do that, you're sending a signal to the rest of the world. Come to the United States, you can be here for at least 6 years illegally, and we'll allow you. That's a mistake.
We have no idea who these people are. I mean, they're coming not just from Guatemala, Honduras, they're coming from all over the world.
That's correct. And the Biden administration continues to say we're talking about root causes of migration coming in, and they focus in on what's happening in the Northern Triangle. But we've had people from all over the world. In fact, last year we had every single country in the world that illegally crossed our border. This year we've had over 150 different countries just this year crossing the border. And so you've got people coming in illegally from every country that you can name. So this is not about root causes. This is about facilitating illegal trafficking in the United States. And every one of those people is paying between $4,000 and $30,000 to the cartels in Mexico to be able to cross the border. So this is about $10 billion to the cartels in Mexico just last year in moving people illegally. So we're enriching the cartels, and we're devastating our country right now.
Doesn't this also hold down the wages of American workers? I mean, if you bring in millions, and we've allowed in millions of illegal workers right now, illegal immigrants, doesn't it essentially keep prices low on the wage scale?
It does, actually. And you've got people competing that know they can't go compete for wages and get equal wages because they're here illegally present. And someone can just say, well, if you have a problem with what I'm paying you, I'm just going to turn you in on that problem. The other issue is the cartels. Sometimes if you can't pay the cartels, they'll say, well, good, we've got something you can do for us to be able to pay that off, whether it's sex trafficking, drug trafficking, whether it's working in a sweatshop somewhere here in the United States that is managed by the cartels. They have ways that, quote unquote, they can pay off their debt as well. That's also dramatic. So literally this is facilitating illegal activity and hurting our economy and people.
The vice president is supposed to be in charge of the border. It's part of her portfolio. Again, there doesn't seem to be anybody trying to get their arms around this crisis.
There's not. People forget that when Biden was vice president, he was also assigned to be able to manage root causes of migration. He was also the one going down to Central America. So literally, he becomes president, passes that off to his vice president. We're seeing the same quality of job being done now as when he was vice president as well. They're not dealing with this. And the people in Central America that I've met with, the leadership there, they say it over and over again. Stop encouraging people to come to the United States by having an open border, because their labor force is leaving, which is hurting their economy in their country, and saying that what President Biden is doing now is encouraging people to leave their economy, come to our economy. It's hurting our nation, and it's hurting theirs.
You think the White House doesn't want to stop the problem because that would be seen as sort of endorsing some of what President Trump did?
Everything that the Biden administration is doing right now is to placate the left, the far, far, far left, whether it is environmental policy, cutting off what's happening with oil and gas in the United States, saying we'll buy from Russia or Venezuela instead of the United States, or whether it's the migration issues that are happening right now. They're terrified of the far left progressives who are open border folks and just say, open the borders. Anytime they enforce the border, their far left starts screaming, they kowtow to them, and it just gets worse.
Let's talk about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. The vote likely to be this week in the United States Senate. What's your vote?
I'll be voting no. There will be several procedural votes that will happen as soon as tomorrow. So Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday. The final vote could be Thursday. She and I met on Thursday, had a long meeting, and she's very pleasant to talk to. She's someone you would enjoy sitting down to dinner with, but someone I can't support to be able to be on the Supreme Court as a lifetime appointment. We have disagreements on the role of the executive branch, the judicial branch, on sentencing requirements, and several other issues on this. But again, she's a pleasant person. Can't negate that at all. But this is a very serious issue when you talk about how you're going to interpret the law, how the law is going to be applied.
But it does seem that, I mean, if you get every Democrat vote, she is going to win an appointment, and in fact there's at least one Republican senator who has said she will vote yes.
Right. At this point, every Democrat votes, then she's actually put onto the court. So there's no way that we can stop it. The same way the Democrats were very upset at the 3 Trump nominees that we worked through the Supreme Court, but there's no way that they could stop those 3 nominees as they worked through the process if every Republican voted for them, which we did. And so when we put those individuals on the court, then they're on the court. This will be the same as what they're dealing with as well. This is why elections matter.
It doesn't change the ideological balance of the court, really. If Judge Breyer, on the liberal side, she's going to vote primarily the same way he has, would you not say?
I would assume that. She actually clerked for Judge Breyer, and so she's actually been mentored by him, if you can say it that way, and had the opportunity to be able to serve. She's had great experience and background, all those things, but every expectation is based on how she's handling sentencing, how she's handled the law, and working with Judge Breyer, that she'll be actually making decisions very consistent with that same left-leaning perspective.
Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, we appreciate you coming in tonight. Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.